it's not about how many followers you have. It's not about what you're not good enough at. It's actually much more about what you are good enough at and what you're willing to take the risk and go and do. Just go out there, do it. Like, just start here. Start where you are. Start with what you know. And there are brands, there are people who want to team up with you and who want to work with you just because of that. It's that attitude that really makes a difference. Tell me about this, right? You've been out on a shoot before. You're like, I need to capture this moment. The crows are on the branch over there, or the moose is right there. And then all of a sudden you take a couple of snaps and it just doesn't come in so great, right? Or you went out and shot all day and you kind of had some perfect moments you maybe could have captured, but you didn't. And all of a sudden that doubt creeps in. What do you do? How do you feel? How do you deal with that?
Calm down. Just really like do the opposite of what your body wants to do, which is freak out, calm down. But I think for me, it's because like I practice freediving and because of that breath work and meditation. So it's like the natural instinct. It's like you're deep in the water, just calm down, you know? So in anywhere that it's supposed to be stressful, it's like, okay, calm down. And then you just think better. So it actually happened with the moose. My white balance was completely off. Like the snow was like fluorescent. So there was 2 male moose with antlers, which is super rare to see 2 moose together like that. And I actually had to run between the filmmaker and the model because he couldn't shout to her to tell her what she needed to do. He couldn't say, okay, action, because it might startle them. So I was running from her to him, like, okay, in 5 seconds, you're going to walk down. Okay. And then I go to him, she's ready. and then at a point, I kind of like ran into the wrong area that I thought, and I'm like face to face with this moose. And I'm like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. So I'm slowly backing up, like very, very slowly. And I'm like, but this is a beautiful moment. Like the moose was like where you are.
Really?
Yeah. And I could feel their energy, and I could feel like they were very comfortable with us being there. And that's one thing I think with wildlife you have to pay attention to make sure, because they could maul you in like 1 second. But they were eating and they felt very comfortable. And I think that's what made me really comfortable too. But yeah, and then you were saying about like capturing the moment and maybe your settings are not okay. And that was kind of happening, but it just doesn't make sense to stress out. It's easier said than done, definitely. What's your go-to?
I think certain different things stress me. In different scenarios. Like in business, my go-to when I get overwhelmed is my calendar. How do I go back to my calendar and just control my time? If I could start back at time, and then I can get back to the moment of what I'm going to be doing, not right now, but also what I'm going to do in that future moment, so that I feel less stressed about it. And then I can, like, at some point, I just have to figure out what my priorities are, right? I won't be able to get everything I have on my to-do list done today, nor tomorrow, nor the next day, nor ever. At least that's my character, right? That's who I am. And I identify at least with that. So, but the idea of from a shoot perspective, at some point, I really got comfortable just trusting that whatever moment I did capture or whatever moment I didn't capture was kind of meant to not be captured or meant to be captured. And I think I dealt with that stress or those moments through the unfortunate run of wedding videography that I was doing. Man, there's only one time that for whatever reason I lost the footage, one full camera footage of the entire ceremony where I didn't, and the second I had a backup shooter, and this backup shooter did not get the kiss, and I didn't have it. I caught it, but for whatever reason when I transferred over the files, they all corrupted or something happened, and I could not get these files. But otherwise, I always just kind of, I think it's like I was listening, like you just said, right? We were listening to the energy of the animals. In my case, I'm listening to the energy. Like, I don't always know exactly when a certain thing is going to happen in a ceremony. I don't always know exactly what's going to happen in a live event. But it's like talent and preparation and practice meets the moment. And then I'm just willing to say, hey, I'm trust myself.
Yeah,
I
trust yourself.
I just trust that I'm capturing the right moment the way it needs to be. And sometimes in that perfect shot, somebody just stands up and gets right in front of the camera, or somebody just gets in the way. And, you know, I always tell people, like, look, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do everything possible to capture everything that happened. But some things, somebody just got in the way.
It's out of your control.
Exactly.
And I think from what you were explaining, like, especially with trying to get all the tasks done in the day,
Yeah.
and that you won't be able to, well, it's also you're overachieving, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing too, because you'll do more. Because if you were to probably make your schedule like with less things on it, you might accomplish it, or you might do even less.
100%. Yeah, I definitely value doing more in a sense.
I love that. Do more.
But there's kind of like I'm deeply inspired by Casey Neistat and what he did, and he literally has "do more" tattooed on his arm.
Yeah, my friend has "do more" tattooed on his
he's
chest.
so amazing. That's so amazing. Casey Neistat was such a motivating creator for me, and still is in many ways. But the what I like and what I love is a better way of saying it. What I love about photography, what I love about videography, is that sometimes I actually am not doing more. I'm just like living that moment. I think that's every time I speak to a creator, it's like we're all addicted to that feeling.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it with what you said. Like, what you're meant to capture, you will capture.
Mm-hmm.
And then if not, you still have the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't lose.
Yeah. And I love that the art of photography and the art of videography is that you get to relive that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I see a picture that I took in Brazil, or I see a picture I took in Argentina, or I see something I created, a video that I created years ago, or whatever it is, it brings me back to that moment. But not only that moment, not only that picture, but everything that led to that moment, everything around that, I was with, what laughs and jokes, what crazy adventure I had to have. Like you mentioned Thailand on your first trip, you're like carrying your luggage on top of your head, and that's obviously not the best way to do it. Like it's those little things that you don't see that are behind the scenes that are just like, I deeply, deeply, deeply value that. Particularly, I deeply value nostalgia. Yeah.
And that's what I love, that more and more people are doing behind the scenes now, and more raw shooting.
Yes.
And call it lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Instagram, I find, has turned photography a little bit more towards epic. And we sometimes miss the whole story behind the photo. So to bring that in is happening. I see it more and more. And I'm loving it.
Would you consider making like a BTS of some of your content? I guess Instagram stories is kind of that.
Instagram stories is kind of that. Yeah, you try, but it's hard. Like,
yeah,
you need an extra person to be shooting BTS.
Totally.
Because like you said, you can't be doing everything. You can't be doing the BTS, the photography, the model, and then
I'd love
yourself.
to.
You're no longer in the moment, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
I find when it's starting to get in the way of like, okay, I'm not here anymore. I need to put something down and like regroup. Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I feel the thing that motivates me at this stage is I don't feel like I'm the best person to take the shot, but I feel like I'm really good at being like the coordinator or the coach or the person who puts the player on the ice. And I'll say this, right now, literally at this moment, the Habs are in the Stanley Cup playoffs, for example. Okay.
Yeah.
And I could have been the player that's on the ice, meaning I've picked up a camera and I've learned photography and videography, but I'm far from the best at it. But I do know that I'm really good at knowing who should be on the ice, or I really know how to build a team. So that's more of a general manager or a coach or whatever you want to call it, coordinator of some kind. But I know that my skills are best served in those moments. And so I'm capable of dealing with a different kind of stress, which is dealing with a bunch of people or more complex situations. Whereas in the simplest of situations, it's almost like I almost like don't afford myself the time to do it. And I feel like that's where when I retire, And I roll my eyes because I'm like, when am I going to retire?
Yeah.
But I do think that will grow. I think I will get to that more in the coming years.
I think it's amazing that you know what your strengths are and you play them forward. And to recognize that, not everyone could do that. Not everyone can recognize their strengths and say, okay, well, I'm not good at this. And then you find the right people who are. Yeah. And
it's knowing what my
business.
weaknesses are.
That's how, that's how you have to move forward. I felt that with Instagram, for example, to land some clients, there's I don't have enough followers, right? That crosses your mind. And then it's the doubt, and to overcome it, I'm like, okay, well, if I don't have enough followers, but I know what to create. I have a vision. I have an idea. What if I team up with someone who does have followers, you know? And then together we're filling in the missing pieces. So I feel like
know your role in the
ecosystem. Know your role and branch out and just do it. Don't be scared.
I love that. I think there's a lot of people who are listening to this who don't have a ton of followers and who, want to make amazing content. But they feel, I make the joke of it, but I call it the digital cricket, right? And I know you don't hear it, but there's a little cricket sound. And because you're not wearing the headphones. But the point is, people, in all seriousness, they experience this I'm not enough in some way, shape, or form, right? And in the world of Instagram, that looks like I don't have enough followers, so I can't get the brand deal. I can't do whatever it is. And what I find amazing is that you don't have, look, sure, you have a certain amount of followers, 4,000 some odd followers or whatever 4, it is on that page.
I don't even have a swipe up.
Sure, but you're out there making brand content deals, and you're doing that with some of the biggest brands. Like Corona is not a small brand to be dealing with and making content for, and with, you know what I mean, and with other creators and other things. So it's not about how many followers you have. It's not about what you're not good enough at. It's actually much more about what you are good enough at and what you're willing to take the risk and go and do. And I think that the message you just shared of just go out there, do it. Just start here. Start where you are. Yeah. Start with what you know. And there are brands, there are people who want to team up with you and who want to work with you just because of that. It's that attitude that really makes the difference.
Yeah, and if you don't start, you're always going to grow. So you'll never feel ready if you don't start.
And you won't grow if you don't start.
And you won't grow if you don't start.
If you don't start posting. Cycle. Yeah, exactly. If you don't post, you're not, there's definitely, if you're not going to water that seed in a sense, if you're not going to take the time to put amazing content and tell great stories in some, whatever version of storytelling you want to do, whether that be on Instagram or other platforms, by the way, too, unless you're willing to do it for real, and also not do it for the validation of how many people liked it or how many people watched it. That's another thing that I struggled with deeply.
Refresh.
Yeah. Refresh. Yeah, sure. Yes, absolutely. How many times I watch, we all have some of that in us.
We've all done it.
Yeah, I still do it in some ways. Too. You know what I mean? I still look at my stories and I'm like, oh wow, this one really did really well, and the other one didn't. I don't know why. And then and it's also because there's this unknown factor, which is the algorithms. Sometimes when I start a story with a share of somebody else who tagged me, the entire series of stories that I make after that doesn't perform as well. Because the first story I posted was a reshare.
Oh, yeah. I've noticed that as well.
Right?
Yeah.
So then you're
now I don't want to share.
I don't want to share other people's content, but that's horrible because then they want me to share their content because they're like, oh, dude, I tagged you and you're bigger than me, but nah. And it's like, oh, trust me, I wish I want to share your stuff, but then if I do, then I also can't get my own stuff out.
They share it at the end of your story.
That's it. So now you start to do that and you figure it out. Okay, great. I'll share at the end of my day, so that I'm done my story, and then I'll use your story as a little piece of it. But this is all part of the game. And so part of that game is found on your own merits and your own willingness to go out there and do it. But then there's also this ominous algorithm problem, I'm going to call it, because it is sometimes a problem, that makes us be beholden to okay, well, how many people are paying attention? How many people are doing these things? That being said, though, when you stop focusing on how many people are paying attention, you tend to get more attention. Right? Back to what I was saying about the photo. Two people in the same place take the exact same photo. The one who's doing it for passion, for love, for the love of the art, always outcompetes, in every way, that photo will somehow have just a little bit more magic. And I'm going to play that little sound effect that you love. That's that magic sound. It has that little, you know, in French we say je ne sais quoi. It's like it's something that is just energetically imprinted.
Yeah, it's not tangible. We can
Exactly.
feel it.
But we all feel it.
Yeah.
We all feel it, and somehow we feel it through the screen, and so does everyone on their iPhone or their Android or whatever it is. But they're experiencing that moment, or that passion through you. And I think no matter how many followers you have, right? And I've interviewed and had sitting across from me people with millions of followers, and I've also had people with 4,000 some odd followers, and the same thing is true. Like, that's what I've noticed is the commonality between these influencers and creators and entrepreneurs is they all just do it for the love of what they do, right?
It's easy to get sidetracked, like you said, because sometimes you put something out there that you really love.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody really loves street photography.
Yeah.
But it's their mountain content that's getting all the likes.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to share the street photography. It skews you a little bit. So it's stuff like that where you have to, I feel like, be careful and make sure you're sharing for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be difficult because the algorithm plays with your head like that.
It does. Is there something that you love, and maybe we'll end the podcast here, is there something that you would love to do, love to create, maybe thought about creating, or maybe you did create it, that you haven't published or that you want to go out there and do? Is there an adventure that you're like, that's my next adventure. That's the thing that I want to do. That's the one that scares me. That's the one that something, because there's something like that's on your mind.
Bucket list.
Yeah, like almost like
thing.
a bucket list shot or something.
Ooh. Good question. I just want to shoot more underwater at the moment. And right now, my bucket list shot is to capture jellyfish in Côte-Nord or Gaspésie in Quebec.
Okay.
So search for jellyfish and get in the water.
And just go do a shoot with the jellyfish. Amazing. It's beautiful. Yeah, I what I loved about meeting somebody like Chelsea and Josiah and somebody like Sam and all those creators is literally right here, right now, they're on there's a sardine run.
Yeah, I saw this morning.
Exactly. So the sardine run, for those who don't understand, is it's basically the sardines are going up the coast. So they're starting, let's say, in South Africa, and they're going up the African coast. And what that means is millions, if not billions, of sardines are kind of floating around all over the ocean, but they're all in this giant school of fish, or of sardine fish, right? And so what that does, it attracts whales and dolphins and all the other predators, let's say, of the sardines that are all part of this feeding frenzy, and they're there capturing that moment. And I know what was so great is that I heard them talk about, like, oh, that would be so great to do. And
now
to
it's
know,
happening.
yeah, that this is like, I was in Mexico and I heard them say it, to know that they're not being paid by any brand to do that. Like, maybe there's a brand that they might do after or before or after, but there's no brand that said, you know what, I really need you to go out there and get that sardine shot. You know what I mean? With all the whales or whatever it is. They're just going out there and doing that because that's for the love of what they
feeds your soul.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Yeah. And that's what we feel. That's why their photographer, that's why their snaps, their photos, their videos, it just lands different.
And they took a plane to be able to go on that adventure.
And they're out there for boat, like, you know, I think Chelsea or Sam or whatever, they shared that they were out there for 6-7 hours.
Wow.
And they got in the water once for like maybe 30 minutes or an hour. So that's 6-7 hours of them getting seasick. That's 6-7 hours of them not feeling great. That's 6-7 hours of them not finding the sardines, not finding the whales, not finding all the things they're looking for. That's what you don't see. And like I'm only able to speak to it because we saw one 15-second thing that said we were on the boat for 6-7 hours. And luckily I have, you know, because we did the AnyDesk campaign, I'm chatting with some of them, you know, behind the scenes on different things. So I get a little bit of an imprint of what it's actually like in some ways. Yeah, it's just, it's way, there's so much more effort in it, but it's not about the shot or how many people view the video. It's actually about, and you know, this is the most cheesy thing, but it really is about the journey to get the shot in the first place. It really
is. It's that it's so hard.
Yeah.
And that's what it's intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm got to say thank you so much for taking the time to come out. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Thank you so much for documenting your authentic truth when it comes to being, the nature side of things, and then how you're navigating through all of that. I think your photography is amazing. I'm super excited to work with you on something.
Same.
Super excited to go out on some trip that has nothing to do with anything other than just to go and get that
Full
shot and
pleasure.
live
Yes.
the moment. Yeah, I would love to invite you to do something like that. I would love to be invited to go and do something like that. I'm certain that I will be creating with you and surely capturing some of those moments alongside you in the future.
No doubt.
Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you for having me here. First time.
Yeah, you did great. You did great. Yeah, it's just a conversation.
Yeah, it's just a conversation, a good one.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So for anybody who's looking to follow you, any of those things, first of all, I'll say, you know this, if you got all the way to the end of this podcast, the links are down below. But if there's something specific that you want them to go check out, maybe they want to go check out the Corona video or follow you on Instagram, all those links are down below. But is there anything else you'd want to send people to?
No, there's nowhere else for now. Maybe eventually a website, but
I'm working on it, I'm
working
sure.
on it.
As any good creator would. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you got to the end of this podcast. It means this podcast was incredibly valuable to you in some way, shape, or form because you got here to the end. So if you got to the end, then maybe, just maybe, you would hit that subscribe button. Maybe, just maybe, you hit that bell notification, the like, the comment, all those things that we talked about because they're good for the algorithm. And they're like a simple, easy way that you can, from your chair, from your couch, or from your bed, or from wherever you're watching this on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, blah, 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 that you can help let more people see this. Share it to somebody who might be interested or impacted by it. And hopefully it was inspiring to you. Leave your questions down below. We'll see you in the next episode, ladies and gents. Bye-bye.